this tutorial, we're going to explore the different navigation modes, settings, and controls that LightStanza has to help you get around the viewer. Before we start, let's first look at the difference between 2D and 3D modes. Currently, we're in a 3D orthographic view, and we can toggle to 2D using this A lamp icon on the top viewer control bar, or by using the hotkey T to switch between 2D and 3D modes. The navigation controls will behave slightly differently depending on whether you are in a 2D or a 3D view, but typically they follow a consistent pattern. Immediately to the left of the 2D 3D toggle on the viewer control bar, you'll find the navigation mode selector. The default is select mode, which behaves consistently with most standard CAD software and will give you the most flexibility assuming you have a 3-button mouse and a working keyboard. When you hover over the navigation mode selector, you will also get a cheat sheet which shows you how the controls work in the default select mode. A little later on, we'll also review the other navigation modes and how they work. While in select mode, you can use the left mouse button to select individual model elements and surfaces. Clicking another one will deselect the previous one, or if you hold the left mouse button, you can lasso select to get multiple elements within the selection window. The middle button, or scroll wheel, will allow you to pan if you hold it down, or zoom if you roll it as if you were scrolling. Use the right-click button to open a context menu to give you some options over the currently selected item. You can find various edit tools within the different context menus depending on the type of object selected. You can also hold down the right mouse button to orbit in 3D, or if we toggle back to a plan view, the right mouse button now becomes the pan tool, pretty similar to orbit. Returning to our 3D view, we can now use the navigation mode selector to explore some of the other modes. Switching to orbit, look around, pan, or zoom will override the behavior of the left mouse button and reassign the other controls to different mouse buttons consistent with the mode you select. You can set the default navigation mode over in the user settings under your user icon, or toggle it here as needed. So now with the viewer in orbit mode, holding down the left mouse button will allow us to orbit. Clicking a surface no longer selects a surface because we're in orbit mode. The middle scroll wheel can be used to zoom out incrementally or more rapidly by holding it down. And the right mouse button allows us to pan in either a 2D or a 3D view while we're in orbit mode. The next navigation mode we're going to look at is look around mode. While this is applicable in any 3D view, it's most useful in an interior environment. So first, let's create a good 3D view in the interior of the building. So to do that, we'll actually toggle back to our lighting plan view. And notice we were actually switched back to the selection mode. This is because the orbit and look around modes are available in 3D only. So when you switch back to 2D, it'll go back to the default. But we're only going to use this view temporarily to create an interior perspective. From the lighting plan view, you can select a calculation grid and click View Location in 3D to drop a camera right where your cursor was located. And with our initial 3D view created on the interior of the building, we can now use the navigation selector again to go back to look around mode. This is sometimes referred to as first person mode in other 3D graphical viewers. The key difference between look around and orbit is the rotation position. In look around mode, rotation is like turning your head around a fixed point. Notice the camera position isn't changing, it is only rotating. Just to compare that with orbit, now I'm orbiting around my cursor position where I selected with the little lasso. And if I switch back to look around mode, now I'm rotating around a fixed point again. In look around mode, none of the other controls are available. The middle button doesn't do anything, and the right doesn't do anything. It's a simple mode to allow you to rotate into a proper perspective. From here, we can use zoom to fit to return to our default 3D view on the exterior of the building. Switching to pan mode, we can now use the left mouse button to pan. This works in 2D or 3D. Then we can use the middle button again to zoom a little bit or quite a bit to sort of emulate a walk style mode. And finally, while in pan mode, the right mouse button will orbit in 3D. And if we switch back to 2D, the right mouse button is disabled. But we can still pan using the left mouse button in 2D just as we saw in 3D. And the last navigation mode is called zoom mode. With zoom mode enabled, the left mouse button will behave like the scroll wheel did before, simply zooming in and zooming out to different parts of the building, much like you were walking in or out. The scroll wheel also does this in zoom mode. Holding it does nothing in zoom mode. And then right-clicking will pan in either 2D or 3D. This can be a particularly useful mode if you're working with a mouse with fewer than 3 buttons or without a keyboard. You can more easily zoom in and out while switching to this mode. You can also use the camera button on the left-hand modeling toolbar to save a viewpoint. Once you find a viewpoint you like, you can save it. And if we switch back to select mode and orbit, say, to a different position, now we can quickly return to the original facade by recalling the saved viewpoint. Thank you and happy navigating!